The story of the Freeway Phantom begins in the spring of 1971, a period of significant social change and unrest in Washington, D.C., a city where the gleaming monuments of power stood in stark contrast to the struggling neighborhoods where many of its residents lived. It was in these neighborhoods that a specific terror began to take root, targeting the most vulnerable members of the community with a chilling precision that would soon paralyze the city with fear. The first victim was 13-year-old Carol Spinks, a young girl with her whole life ahead of her, who vanished on April 25th while walking to a convenience store near her home in southwest D.C. Her disappearance triggered a search, but it was the discovery of her body 9 days later that revealed the nightmare was only beginning. She was found strangled and discarded near the exit of Interstate 295, a major artery leading in and out of the city, a location that would become a grim signature for the killer who was just starting his campaign of terror. Just over a month later, the Phantom struck again, claiming the life of 16-year-old Darlinia Johnson, who was abducted on her way home from a party in early June. Like Carol, Darlinia's body was found dumped near a highway, this time on the Baltimore-Washington Parkway, positioned in a way that suggested the killer was deliberately displaying his victims to be found by passing motorists, a brazen act that showed his contempt for law enforcement and his confidence in his ability to avoid capture. The city was now on alert, with parents keeping a tighter watch on their children and newspapers beginning to connect the two murders, though police were hesitant to declare a serial killer was on the loose, perhaps hoping these were isolated tragedies rather than the start of something far more sinister. Any hope that the killings were unrelated was shattered in July, when 10-year-old Brenda Crockett disappeared while running an errand for her mother, vanishing from a street she had walked countless times before. Her body was discovered days later along Indian Head Highway in Maryland, continuing the pattern of highway dump sites and confirming that a single ruthless predator was hunting young girls in the D.C. area. The city's fear turned to outright panic, with community meetings demanding action and police launching massive manhunts that seemed to yield nothing but frustration and dead ends, as the killer continued to move through the city like a ghost, leaving no witnesses and no physical evidence behind. The Phantom's fourth victim was 18-year-old Nenemoshia Yates, who vanished in October after leaving a friend's house, her case adding a new layer of cruelty to the investigation. Before her body was discovered, the Yates family received a terrifying phone call from someone claiming to be the killer, who coldly informed them that he had their daughter and would kill her, a taunt that was unfortunately not taken seriously enough by authorities at the time to trace the call effectively. Nenemoshia's body was later found near a ramp off Interstate 95, continuing the killer's macabre tradition of using the city's infrastructure as his personal graveyard, a tactic that allowed for quick escape and anonymity. The most chilling communication, however, came after the murder of 12-year-old Brenda Woodard, the Phantom's fifth victim who disappeared in November. The Washington Star newspaper received a taunting handwritten letter from someone claiming to be the killer, who wrote, "I know you are looking for me. I want to be called the Freeway Phantom." He boasted of his crimes and even included details that had not been made public, proving his authenticity and sending a wave of terror through the city. The letter was a direct challenge to the police and the public, a narcissistic display of control from a killer who believed he was untouchable and enjoyed the notoriety his crimes were generating. The investigation was plagued by missteps and oversights from the beginning, many of which were rooted in the racial and socio-economic biases of the era. The victims were all young African-American girls from less affluent neighborhoods, and their disappearances initially received less media attention and police resources than might have been afforded to white victims from more privileged backgrounds. This delay in recognizing the pattern and dedicating full resources to the case gave the Phantom a critical head start, allowing him to continue his killing spree with little interference from a system that was slow to react to the danger facing these communities. The final victim, and perhaps the most tragic case of missed opportunity, was 17-year-old Diane Williams, who vanished in October 1972 after getting off a bus in southeast D.C. In a heartbreaking twist, Diane managed to call her sister from a phone booth after her abduction, whispering that a man in a green car had taken her and that she was scared for her life. Her sister immediately called the police, but due to a disastrous error in dispatch and a lack of urgency, the call was not prioritized, and no patrol cars were sent to search the area for the green car until it was far too late. Diane's body was found days later near the Anacostia Freeway, her potential rescue a devastating casualty of institutional failure. The case of the Freeway Phantom remains one of the most frustrating and sorrowful unsolved serial killer cases in American history. The official investigation eventually grew cold, despite the efforts of dedicated detectives and the heartbreak of 6 families who never received justice for their daughters. The killer's ability to abduct girls from streets and bus stops in a busy city without ever being seen, and to dispose of their bodies along some of the most traveled roads in the region without leaving behind any physical evidence, suggested a level of planning and luck that is deeply unsettling to contemplate. Over the decades, several theories have emerged about the Phantom's identity, though none have led to an arrest. Some investigators believe he may have been a truck driver or someone who frequently traveled the highways for work, giving him expert knowledge of the area and a plausible reason for being on the road at all hours. Others have speculated that he could have been a law enforcement officer or someone with military training, given his ability to control his victims and avoid leaving behind clues at the crime scenes. The truth is that without DNA evidence or a confirmed witness, his identity remains a maddening mystery. The legacy of the Freeway Phantom is a painful reminder of how prejudice can hinder justice and how easily vulnerable communities can be overlooked by the systems designed to protect them. The 6 young victims, Carol Spinks, Darlenia Johnson, Brenda Crockett, Danena Moshia Yates, Brenda Woodard and Diane Williams, are more than just names in a cold case file. They were daughters, sisters, and friends whose lives were brutally stolen by a predator who exploited the biases of his time to evade capture. Modern forensic science, particularly DNA analysis, offers a glimmer of hope that the case could still be solved, much like the Golden State Killer investigation decades later. Evidence from the crime scenes has been preserved, and there are ongoing efforts to apply new technologies to find a genetic match that could finally put a name to the Freeway Phantom. However, the passage of time and the degradation of evidence remain significant obstacles to justice, leaving many to wonder if the Phantom will ever be truly unmasked. The highways that weave through and around Washington, D.C. still carry the silent, heavy echo of this unsolved tragedy, each mile of asphalt a potential memorial to the 6 young lives brutally cut short, and a mystery that has now endured for over half a century with no resolution in sight. These roads, meant to symbolize connection and progress, became instead the chosen landscape of a predator, the backdrop for his crimes, and the final resting place for his victims, forever linking these transportation arteries to a period of profound fear and loss in the city's history. The case stands as a somber and enduring lesson in the critical importance of giving every missing person case the full attention and resources it deserves from the very beginning, regardless of the victim's race, background, or profession, and it serves as a stark warning that evil often preys most effectively where it believes it will be overlooked, institutionalized, or dismissed by the very systems designed to protect the public. What are your thoughts on the deeply complex and tragic Freeway Phantom case, and do you believe that modern forensic technology and genetic genealogy can still solve this decades-old mystery despite the significant passage of time and the potential degradation of physical evidence? Who do you theorize the killer might have been based on the patterns of the crimes and the brazen communications he sent to the press, and could he have been someone with professional knowledge of the transportation systems or law enforcement procedures that allowed him to operate with such apparent impunity? Share your detailed insights and personal theories in the comments section below. The archives of the Penance Files are always open for thoughtful discussion and collective investigation by our community of dedicated mystery enthusiasts. And if you believe that every single victim of violent crime deserves to be remembered and honored, and that every case, no matter how cold or complex, deserves to be pursued until the truth is uncovered and justice is finally served, then please subscribe to our channel and tap the notification bell to join us as we continue to seek the truth, honor the forgotten, and explore the darkest chapters of history in our relentless pursuit of resolution. Next on the Penance Files, the Frankfurt slasher, Philadelphia's Forgotten Fear. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story from the archives.